Good afternoon, everyone. This was kind of tough for me. This is a different type of audience than I'm used to presenting to in our business. So bear with me a little bit. I tried to put it together so that I give you a little bit of flavor what Inpro is, assuming that most of you really don't know what our company does. But one thing that you should know, we do everything through a filter, and we consider ourselves an obsessive organization. My staff thinks that I'm a paranoid kind of a guy, but from an obsessive standpoint, we needed to put a filter in, and right here is really where we concentrate. When we look at product management and development, we want to make sure that we're hitting the healthy, the safety, sustainable, and appearance concerns of any type of facility that we're going into. And so everything that we do needs to meet that criteria before we go any further. Kind of a nice filter. It keeps everybody on the same page. Doesn't meet the filter, we don't do it. We have 5 product divisions, and I'm only going to focus on one, but we do architectural signage. We have a solid surface division. We do engineered metal products. When we talk about earthquakes in San Francisco, we're doing all the expansion joints. So we actually did the exploratorium on one of the piers there. Click uses privacy systems for healthcare, but this is the mainstay of our business, door and wall protection. And in the door and wall protection side, we're making corner guards, wall cladding, handrails, a lot of protection for environments and healthcare, education, and like. So that's really the markets that we're serving right now. And when we look at these going forward, and we're working with the architectural firms, we're working with contractors, we're working with the facilities, the life changes on an ongoing basis. Any time that we complete a project and we think we're done, it's actually just a starting point to begin something else. So our obsession actually to become more sustainable started in 1998 when we joined the USGBC. Early member with that. In fact, Green Globe we just joined last year in 2013 to get a better flavor for that. But we started out and we were looking at products back here, more on the wood line. We actually in 2006 went into more bamboo products, really rapidly renewable resources. We didn't really have a game plan, a solid comprehensive plan to get to any type of sustainability. We were just taking what we knew at the time and we were kind of moving forward with it. Actually, we don't even do bamboo anymore. That's already off the plate. So some of these projects that we do are fairly short-lived. We entered the PETG wall cladding. We're a plastics manufacturer, so we moved into that. We're already out of that already because that's already developed further. PCABS materials we started using, more friendly. And then in 2012, or 2010, I should say right here, we created a biopoly material made of corn base. And with the corn base and the PETG that we thought we had a real winner for the marketplace, non-PVC product and the like. And I was somewhat surprised when we took it to the market and we got all kinds of pushback because we were using a food source because of the corn base. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board again. And what it really told me is that we don't really have a solid game plan in place. You know, we're just kind of working on individual products, but not putting in a holistic picture of what we really should be doing. And we're not really listening to all of the stakeholders in our industry and getting all of the feedback. So we're only taking snippets at a time. Then we entered with our solid surface. We did end up with the bioresin material. That's a soy base that we put in there. Nice product, gave us a little bit more leverage with it, but still the same thing. It wasn't until we got here in 2013 when we introduced product transparency that we really forced our company to get involved with the industry as a whole. We really had to start listening to all the stakeholders, what all the concerns were, and we're still doing that and trying to do our best to move forward. This EPD, HPD was quite a journey for us, and we had to accomplish it in a very short time. A couple things to note down here that we try to do. We are ISO 14000, carbon neutral shipments. We have a game plan. We do a lot of UPS shipments, so that was a nice program to put into place. Here's some of our technology business partners, just to give you a flavor for how connected we are with technology. Going all the way from Autodesk, RCAT suites, we're trying to get right to the specifiers in that regard with our product information and what we do. But then you'll see PE International, which we contracted to do our environmental product declarations. We use UL for all of our certifications. We ended up partnering with Tally, and this is kind of cool what we did with Tally. I'll talk about it in a minute. CAD details, and most recently with Terry and Sustainable Minds as we move forward. Again, trying to piece together where we're going to go into the future. For BIM modeling, we've been doing BIM for quite a while. Most of our objects are now on BIM, Autodesk Revit, but we used Tally recently to take what we had out of our EPDs, the life cycle assessment LCAs, and so we can embed that into our BIM objects so when an architect's designing a program, they can populate it and they can tell the entire life cycle assessment. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this arena before all the manufacturers, product suppliers get on board. But I think this is a good start when it comes to trying to take some of that complexity or understanding or misunderstanding out. You don't have to interpret all the individual pieces of data. You'll be able to populate a design and be able to come up with at least an answer. So then we move on to the transparency, and this is where I've been spending my life. My team is in the day-to-day for the most part. Don't let them get any farther out than a year, what they want to do. But this was quite the journey, but it didn't start with me thinking we should really be doing this. What this really did, it started with us joining the HPD pilot program back in 2011. And we did this based on the fact we really didn't understand where we wanted to go with the certification bodies. You could do cradle to cradle, for instance. We didn't know if that was really the future because cradle to cradle, we couldn't figure out what does that really mean. And so we decided that transparency was the best. We were one of the founding members of the HPD pilot program in 2011. We were one of 29 manufacturers. We were in really good company. We were one of the smallest, by the way, of all the companies that were there. We published our first HPD in November of 2012, and we wanted to do that in conjunction with the Green Build show. And we picked an easy product to come up with just to kind of identify it, and we were the first of the 29 manufacturers to actually do that. And so we got some accolades for it, but it's one product, one HPD. But for me, it was a start. And no sooner than we did that, we actually got our first notification from an architect 1 month later. And HKS sent out this letter, and this is dated December 11th, and they are stating that, I know this is hard to read, but they're requesting HPDs for all of our products at this point in time, and they're giving us about a year to do that. So I thought, well, the timing is great. We're kind of ahead of the curve, but that isn't a lot of time to put everything together. We did one. We have literally thousands of SKUs to do this. So to make it even more complicated, we got letters from Perkins & Will, Smith, Beck, Cannon Group, HDR. So all the big ones were contacting us with these letters saying this is what we had to do. And to be honest, they were form letters, but they were followed up with a lot of conversations, phone calls, and meetings by these companies as well. So it was something to be taken, I think, pretty seriously. Either you're going to comply with this, or we're going to take you out of our architectural libraries, which means they're not going to specify you. That was the overall threat. Chances are that might not have been reality. A lot of companies still buy on brand. There are not unlimited choices in the market, so sometimes there aren't a lot of alternatives to work with. But this was our wake-up call. We decided to take this one step further because these were all healthcare related. We decided to marry up the EPDs with it, and we're going to do them all together. So big task. The first thing I realized, I need somebody on board. So the first thing we did is I hired an environmental sustainability manager to come in right from academia, top-notch, knew exactly what she was doing, had a nice game plan laid out for us from the beginning stages. But when I started talking about transparency, EPDs and HPDs, she didn't really know what that process was. So the first part was actually putting together a small team and researching, what does this really mean for us? How do we get there? What do we need to do? And all along the way on this journey, we ran into potential stumbling blocks all the way along on our path. So because we knew this was going to be a real difficult one, and we started to get a handle on it, we decided to only do the products that we control, we manufacture. Going back into the supply base, we decided was going to be much more difficult, much more time-consuming, and we weren't actually sure if they would comply, because most of our suppliers to us are not in the buildings product industry. They do not understand this initiative on transparency. It's a whole other set of obstacles we're yet to face. We were only going to focus on one division to start with, our biggest division. We thought it would have the best impact. When we talk about building protection products and then we go to the healthiness, the sustainability initiatives, and the appearance, we thought this would be a great match across the board. Puts us on a much higher playing field. Again, we were looking for competitive position, so it wasn't about just doing the right thing. Capitalism is definitely in the works when it comes to our company, but we do believe in doing the right thing when it goes forward. And here's the kicker. I gave the team 7 months to complete it. We wanted to launch this at Greenbuild. And so once they got off the floor from having launched this and putting this challenge out to them, they really had to dig in and do a lot of work quick. We didn't really have all the players on board. So the research went into play to get PE International on board, that selection process. We're giving them that data as well. They said that they could accomplish it. Working with UL, we used UL a lot for our other criteria that we need for testing. So we put it all together, and then they went to work, and they basically locked themselves up for quite a bit of time, countless hours going through. The EPD was nice because we had an outside source. The HPD had to be internally generated. We self-performed that all the way through. That's a tough one because we had to identify every single chemical ingredient that was in our products. And to be honest, we didn't know. We always do the main ones. We're a manufacturer, so we know what makes it work in the manufacturing process. But to get down to all the residuals that are in a product, this was pretty eye-opening for us. So we launched our EPDs and HPDs. The EPDs, we ended up with 6 product families, and we got really lucky because we did not have to create a PCR. So one already existed that was close enough that we could use, and that's what really allowed us to complete this in such a short time. We did 120 of our core products, which went across the board is thousands of SKUs. It's about 80% of the product division's SKUs at this point. So we put these documents together, and this is the part here, and I know you can't read this. You know, here's the results down here, a lot of numbers, and I'm going to talk about that too in a little bit. Then the HPDs came into play, and then we had a HPD for each EPD as well. And so here's the document here, and as we went through this is a standard corner guard for us. And all of these boxes right down here are what's the potential hazards that's in that material based on the chemistry model. And when I first looked at it, I saw most of these boxes are checked. What's going to happen next? So if I'm an architect and this comes across my desk, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to say, I can't put this in my building. Look at what's all in here. So we had to really go back in and find out, what does this all mean for us? Was it really hazardous or was it not hazardous? And even though the chemical itself can be on there, there was no assessment, no general information available as to if it was harmful or not harmful. And we're still in that process right now. But the other thing is that we're not scientists. You know, we're not microbiologists. And so trying to interpret that and making a rational decision out of it becomes pretty tough. So I worked with a lot of microbiologists and scientists trying to figure out what we should be doing on this end, and that conversation continues. So from my perspective, it was what's missing in all of this. I've got a lot of information that comes up me. I'm trying to put my thought process into the head of my customers, saying, they're all getting this information. What are they really going to do with it? And I'll be honest, we got that out there. So Green Build was in November. We've got nothing but accolades. You guys are great. You guys have all these EPDs and HPDs out there. And month after month, I'm wondering when the phone's going to ring, and they're going to go, well, what does this really mean? And the phone hasn't rung yet. So at this point in time, we accomplished our goal. This is the product. These are products we've been selling for years, for the most part. But the only part of it is we documented what was in it. It's like an MSDS sheet, listing out what's in it, and is anybody really paying attention to it? And so that actually raises a big concern for myself, because I think it needs to be looked at. The EPDs and HPDs, in my opinion, and just for the group, they need to be tethered together. I don't think that these documents can be looked at independently. If you're going to make a good decision as a specifier or even a contractor, what goes into a building, there's information on both of these that's pertinent. So in my mind, they have to be. And this kind of goes with hand in hand with what Terry was saying earlier. The other thing is the users of these documents should not have to interpret the data. Architects are busy. Contractors are busy. There's no way they should have to be looking at all these formulas and trying to make a decision. What does this mean? What does the LCA mean? It should be much more available in layman's terms for that. And again, I have to go back to what Terry said earlier, because it kind of hit home. It's a lot of great work went into creating these documents, a lot of technical people, and it's a technical document. But I'll be honest, most of the people in my company won't be able to interpret that life cycle assessment the way that it is displayed. And the other part of it is, even if you could do that, how do I compare that to other products? So we did a baseline, so we have all of our products outlined. I don't know if it's good or bad compared to another product or an alternate product at this point in time, because that life cycle assessment hasn't been completed yet. So we look at this as, okay, we finished, we have EPDs, HPDs, but it's just the beginning of a much longer journey down the path that we have to take on. The other thing here is the vertical integration with the supply base. This is going to be absolutely key, and this has been one of our heartaches right now, because we have suppliers who aren't complying. They don't understand why they have to tell us what's in their products. To them, it could be a secret sauce, a proprietary product, and they're very reluctant at this point to come on board. The second part of that is the cost involved in being able to go into their facilities and actually calculate an EPD. We could do it on our own, because we can go through and we can monitor everything we can do with the electricity usage, with water usage and the like. So we could compile all of that together with our suppliers, and as many as we have. And I don't know, I'm interested to hear what Toto's got going on as well in that regard. But this has become one of those kind of scratching your head, and do we try to do this one at a time? Take our major suppliers and then keep digging deeper and deeper as we go through. But these are the issues at hand. Our next steps, we did come on board with Sustainable Minds. Now that we have a baseline and understand where we're at, all of our product development going forward, we're going to be much more proactive in what we do. We want to know what's in it before we make it. And so we are going to be using more software tools to be able to identify that. What is the LCA? What are the potential healthcare risks as we go forward? So that's a big step for our product development group. Education, I say both internal and external. There's a whole half of our company that still don't understand this. Luckily, our executive team gets it. This costs a lot of money. We had to make a decision on what we're going to spend. So they understand the need for it. But then the people who actually are doing the work all the way down the line, they're not completely on board. And the other part is our sales team doesn't necessarily understand it. So our territory managers who are out in architectural firms doing box lunch presentations, trying to explain this the best they can, becomes a real issue because they don't have the knowledge, the experience to be able to talk about it intelligently, and nor do a lot of the architectural firms have the wherewithal to ask the right questions yet. So there is a tremendous amount of education that needs to be brought forth at this point in time. I think what we did is we opened up Pandora's box to some degree, and now we're going to have to sort through it and deal with it. And understanding our supply base is one thing, which we're doing now, but we also have to look at what's the criteria in choosing a supplier going forward. So I think, as we start going down this path, as we bring on new suppliers, they need to be brought into this equation right from the beginning, because we don't want to do what we're doing right now, and it's trying to pry information out of them. We've always considered them partners, and now they don't trust us. They think we're going to do something with their information, like make their product and then not use them as suppliers is one potential. The other is they're afraid at this point in time that there's going to be something bad in the products that they're doing. And I'll be honest, it's one of our pigment suppliers. So as we color products in pigment, pigments probably have more hazardous chemicals in than most of the products, chemicals that we're using right now. That and aluminum. To be honest with you, we're a plastics company. Aluminum has more hazardous material than our plastics do. But those are the things that we're looking at right now. So for us, it's a big game changer. And I think from a technology standpoint, we really need to reach out and find out how does this all come together? Because Inpro, we're right there. We're a very progressive company, and we want to do the right thing. But from our standpoint, we can't make an impact alone in doing that. So we are looking for more tools and how does this synergistic process get into place. And I know in the morning we listened to a couple of very comprehensive presentations. I'm looking at this very pragmatically from my world, and I see it as being a very complex issue to resolve. And with that, I have one more. So for us, it's about influencing the change. We want to improve the environmental and health impact on our environment. We made that decision from our product standpoint, but we've made it as a company as well. We've been making so many gains over the past 5-6 years now of trying to reduce our water consumption, reduce our electric. We've changed over back to DC motors, for instance, just because we wanted to get better electrical efficiencies going. We switched all of our bathrooms over to Toto's low flush toilets, so good for you. But those are the things that we look at, and then we look out beyond. We put in a prairie restoration on our property. Instead of having to mow, cut grass, and do all of that, we decided to try to have more natural plantings so that nature takes care of it. We don't have to do that. We also put in, just recently, beehives, believe it or not. We put in beehives. It helps really pollinate the area around us because bees will travel in a 7-mile radius. So, just really we're trying to do everything we can internally, and our company's having a lot of fun. The employees get that part going forward. So it's not just about the product side. I think it's about how you live and breathe every day and what you instill in your company, your policy, your practice, and your community. And that's it. Thank you.